Hi everyone, welcome to Difference Frames the World, a channel to see the world differently. Please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification so you will not miss our videos uploaded every week. Today we discuss the trade war that the US launched 6 years ago and review why it failed. On May 9, 2024, China Customs released the latest trade data for the first 4 months of 2024. The total value of China's imports and exports reached nearly 14 trillion renminbi, hitting a record high. Since the US launched the trade war against China in 2018, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, two political rivals, have done the same thing to raise trade disputes and impose restrictions on China's products to no avail. After 3 years of lockdown due to the pandemic, China's economic growth slowed, and most Western media outlets exaggerated its tumble. Some even predict that India will replace China by 2037, becoming the new locomotive of the world economy. Most Western media believe China's best time has passed and its worst time is on the way. However, the Chinese economy is resilient and recovering quickly, unexpectedly achieving such a high growth rate. Not only is the Chinese economy recovering, but the Chinese RMB has also become the only strong Asian currency since 2021. Compared with RMB, the Japanese yen has depreciated by nearly 40% against the US dollar. The Chinese RMB may appreciate against the US dollar by 10 to 15% in the coming 2 years when the Fed is ready to cut the interest rates. 2 years ago, when the US dollar was at its historical low against the Chinese RMB, we warned viewers not to convert it to the Chinese RMB, and now we would like to say it is not the right time to bet on the dollar anymore. However, please remember that we are not professionals and cannot predict the exchange rates. Always consult your financial specialists before making any changes to your investment portfolio. Now, let us discuss why China can keep growing its imports and exports when Trump and Biden have taken all possible measures to curb its development. Why does the trade war fail? Why can't the US shake China's position as the world's largest trading nation? The main reason is China has reduced its dependence on Europe and the United States and expanded its trading circle, particularly with emerging countries in Asian, African and Latin American markets. China's exports totaled 7.8 trillion renminbi as of April 30, 2024, more than 140 billion more than in the same period of 2023. Moreover, electric cars, ships and machinery products have become the mainstays of exports, meaning China is not merely a provider of low-cost commodities anymore. The trade war between the United States and China has failed. China does not have to sell its products to the US and Europe, but on the contrary, the US and Europe need China's products to fight inflation. China has established close relations with over 150 countries and enlarged the Belt and Road Initiative Circle. The total trade volume with those countries has climbed to more than 6.5 trillion renminbi, 4.4 times that of the US and China. China can find more markets for its products, but the US can hardly rely on other countries to provide reasonably priced commodities to reduce soaring inflation. To circumvent the hefty tariff, importers in the US work with suppliers in other countries to purchase relabeled Chinese products, like European countries buying Russian oil from India's refineries. The West has been trying to establish a brand new supply chain to reduce its dependence on Chinese commodities. Still, it takes time, and no other nation possesses all industrial sectors to provide low-cost alternatives. Although some goods on the shelves in the US are produced in other countries, not transshipments, major components and parts are still from China. However, the United States, especially the American people, has to bear much higher prices, which is also a reason for high inflation in the United States. Even with the high tariff on some categories of Chinese products, importers cannot find cheaper substitutes from other countries or regions. As a result, customers are forced to pay more for the same products from China or transshipped from a third region. The trade volume between China and the US in the first 4 months of 2024 reached $206 billion, slightly lower than in 2023. Still, China's overall trade volume increased significantly compared to the same period in 2023, resulting partially from the 2-digit increases with the Latin American and 5 Central Asian countries, 11.7% and 17.9%, respectively. The decline in trade volume between the US and China is ignorable when we consider the exchange rate changes. The US and China have entangled interests that can hardly be de-linked shortly. However, the US needs China more than the other way around. The US does not have the skill sets and low-cost labor force to revive its manufacturing sector, and American customers cannot find enough made-in-USA products, even if most of them are patriotic enough to spend several times more money on locally made knockoffs of the same or lower quality. Donald Trump was a very rare patriotic American, so he ordered his "Make America Great Again" cap from a local manufacturer allegedly, but his followers and supporters had to buy more reasonably priced ones from China. A widespread black humor goes that one Republican lawmaker wanted to please Donald Trump and invited the latter to his home. He knew Trump did not like Chinese products, so he told his wife not to use anything made in China when greeting Donald Trump. Viewers who know the second part of the story are welcome to comment below to help others understand what happened next. We cannot provide non-educational stuff here, so the channel will not be demonetized again. Let us continue with the trade war with China that Donald Trump initiated 6 years ago, in 2018, the first 4 months of which saw a trading volume of 1.24 trillion renminbi, nearly 20% lower than in the same period of 2024 if we do not consider the exchange rate fluctuations. The US has not substantially reduced its dependence on China's commodities in the past 6 years, even though Chinese products are not as cheap as before. Conversely, China does not rely solely on the US for its products, and has expanded its markets to other continents than North America, like the European Union and the Southeast Asian nations. In the same period of 2024, their trade volumes with China hit $1.75 trillion and 2.18 trillion renminbi, respectively, significantly exceeding the total trade between the United States and China. Even though the trade war has failed, the Biden administration still wants to continue the hopeless battle against China. 2 days ago, Washington imposed nearly 3 times punitive tariffs on Chinese electric cars, from 25% to 100%, to prevent China from dominating the US car market with its electric vehicles. Just like the US banned Huawei products to protect America's national security, the Biden administration imposes punitive tariffs on China's networked electric cars for the same reason. If America's concern is valid, should all other countries ban Tesla's networked vehicles from hitting their roads? A Tesla has about 10 cameras, constantly recording everything on the road. If the US government wants Tesla to provide sensitive information about other nations, will Elon Musk say no to protect other countries' national security? If he has to follow the American government's instructions, can other countries treat Tesla as the world's biggest spy and kick it out of their territories? Nowadays, everything can be monitored and networked if necessary. In late 2023, Iran released drone footage of a US aircraft carrier in the sea, which was not too much different from a floating duck in a pond. Civilian drones can cause sensitive information leaks nowadays. Several days ago, unauthorized drone flights were reported over naval assets in Yokosuka, Japan. Netizens circulated the images of USS Ronald Reagan and Japan's JS Izumo on social media captured by a civilian drone. There are hundreds of satellites in space watching the Earth. Their high-definition cameras can easily capture the wrinkles of the US president and lawmakers if necessary. China is confident and allows millions of Tesla cars to run on its roads, but the US fears similar Chinese electric cars entering the United States. The Chinese government welcomes Nokia, Ericsson, Alcatel, and other telecom giants to compete with Huawei in its domestic market, but the US bans Huawei products in its territory for so-called national security. It is a joke that the United States, which brags about its free economy, is setting trade barriers to protect its backward manufacturing sectors. China, a so-called authoritarian nation, is embracing globalization. With a population of nearly 1.5 billion, China is the world's largest consumer market, attracting investments from all over the world. It is also the world's biggest manufacturing hub, with a capacity equivalent to 7 industrialization nations in the West. Washington's high-rank officials, like Janet Yellen, Antony Blinken, and Gina Raimondo, have visited Beijing one after another in the past 12 months, showing the world that the US desperately needs China's help to fix its domestic and international headaches. The US is declining, not as potent as 20 years ago. The trade war cannot save and revive its manufacturing even if the US government sets more trade barriers. Washington has lost the trade war, but Beijing is not a winner. Both are suffering from trade disputes and barriers.